one of my previous videos, we talked about breeding your cichlids. Now that you've bred those cichlids, wouldn't it be nice if you could make some money off the fry? In today's video, we'll talk about some of the do's and don'ts of breeding for profit. Now, before we actually start selling fish, we have a few questions we need to answer. And the first is, why? Why do you want to do this? Maybe you want to supplement your hobby. Maybe you want to make enough money to pay for your supplies, like your chemicals, your food, or even your utility bills. Maybe you want to make some species more readily available to other hobbyists and pocket a little coin as well. Or maybe you want to be a full-blown breeding facility, breeding as a business. The next thing we have to decide is, who do you want to sell to? This is really important. Do you want strangers coming to your home to buy fry? Do you want to bother with shipping? Would you rather just deal with your local fish shop? Each has its own pros and cons. Now, selling to the general public could mean local hobbyists as well as shipping to hobbyists in other cities, usually through connections made via social media. One of the pros of going this route is you attract a larger pool of buyers, since you can market to so many people via social media. You can ask for a retail price, since you're selling to the general public. Now, this path also has some cons. Having strangers come to your home to purchase fish can be an inconvenience to you as well as your family. If you decide to ship fry, you have to deal with the added expense of shipping supplies like bags, shipping boxes, and chemicals, not to mention having to drive to the airport or to the carrier's facility to ship fish out. Then, lost profits when fish don't make it to their final destination in one piece. Or maybe you'd rather just keep it simple and deal with the local fish shops in your area. Some of the pros of going this route is that you don't actually have to deal with the public. No one will be coming to your home. No worry about lost profits due to failures of an overnight carrier or an airline. Plus, no added shipping supply costs. Another benefit of dealing with the local fish shops is they usually buy in volume. In addition, many local fish shops will give you repeat business if what you're breeding is in demand. There are a few cons when dealing with a local fish shop. They will usually purchase your fish at a wholesale price, so there's less margin on each fish. Another con is that some local fish shops will only want to give you store credit for your fish. You may not want store credit. I know, personally, nothing beats greenbacks. And lastly, you may only want to sell fish at trade shows and aquarium conventions. One of the pros of doing this is you have your target audience in one place. However, this can also be a con, because if what you're breeding isn't in demand, you'll be packing up and taking home a bunch of fish. Another con of this method is the frequency of the shows. They're typically spaced out throughout the year, so it'd be hard to rely solely on this method to generate much of a profit. The next question that you need to answer is, how do I do this? In order for this to be productive as a business, you'll need multiple species spawning repetitively, and you must get a good yield off of each brood. Imagine if you have two pairs of the same species and both pairs are spawning repetitively. Since you only have the one species, you could soon have so many of that species flood your local market that the local fish shops and hobbyists no longer have a need for your fry. This is why I suggest having multiple offerings. This will allow you to have multiple revenue streams and allow you to have greater control over the supply chain. You'll be able to offer various sizes of each species that you breed. Now, to do this will require a number of dedicated tanks and a significant time investment in maintenance and feeding. You'll need to pay close attention to the diet that you feed your breeders. Typically, you'll feed more live or frozen food when attempting to bring your pair into breeding conditions. You'll also want to regulate the temperature of the tanks to simulate as close as possible the breeding conditions of the species you intend to breed. Now, once you have a viable spawn, you'll need to pay close attention to feeding and water quality of fry tanks. I won't go into great detail on each of these topics, as I've done videos on each. I'll leave a link in the description to both videos. But as I was saying, to do it right will require a sizable monetary and time investment. Can you dedicate the time required in the fish room to make it work? Do you have the money or the time needed to house the many fry and breeders you need for this to be profitable? Most hobbyists don't. My personal experience is that in general, if I can make enough profit from the sale of fry to offset cost of my supplies and maybe make a few bucks selling fish at a major convention, I'm happy. Which brings us to the next question. What? Breeding for profit means breeding what sells, not what you like. They aren't one and the same. Now, I personally love rare South and Central American cichlids, but they aren't always in demand. Many times, local fish shops are looking for more of the bread and butter species, like Midas or Oscars, just to name a few. Now, I'm sure you could walk into just about any fish shop and find both of these species. So if you're attempting to breed for profit, it may be in your best interest to know what they want. Well, guys, these are just a few tips and things to consider if you're thinking about breeding for profit. All right, guys, before I let you go, I just want to share something with you. Right before I was completing editing this video, I happened to take a look into one of the tanks that I have some Feste grow outs in, and I actually divided them so they wouldn't beat on each other. And I noticed that two were extremely colored up. And I happened to pay close attention to one of the females and took a closer look in the tank, and they actually spawned through the divider. So I want to share that with you guys before I let you go. And again, like I said, thanks again for watching. I appreciate all you guys. Thanks for the comments. And without further ado, here it is, Feste.